right now on Morning News Now, down to the wire. Developing this morning, lawmakers scrambling to pass a $1 trillion funding bill and send it to President Biden ahead of a midnight deadline to avoid a partial government shutdown. We'll bring you the latest. Also this morning, captured an escaped Idaho inmate back in custody, along with 2 other suspects, nearly 2 days after an ambush that left 3 officers wounded. What we're learning about the suspects, including 2 homicides that investigators now say may be linked to their time on the run. Plus, the Justice Department taking a bite out of Apple with a landmark lawsuit accusing the tech giant of cheating consumers by monopolizing the smartphone market.
Apple has consolidated its monopoly power, not by making its own products better, but by making other products worse.
We'll break down the complaint, plus Apple's response and what the case could mean for you. And a medical milestone. This morning, doctors celebrating the first ever transplant of a pig kidney to a human. More on the technology that made it possible and how it's offering hope for thousands of others waiting for the potentially life-saving procedure. And just so you know, we did not plan this.
No, but now you should wear red today as you're
getting
up and getting ready for the day ahead.
This is what happens.
Good to have you with us on this Friday. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Let's get started this morning in Washington as we are just hours away from a potential partial government shutdown if Congress can't pass a funding bill.
Lawmakers have until midnight Eastern time to pass a funding package. President Biden has said he'll sign the bill if approved by Congress. The White House and congressional leaders reached a tentative deal earlier this week, and now the clock is ticking. Yesterday, lawmakers released the text of the $1.2 trillion funding bill. It remains unclear whether Congress has enough time to pass it before that deadline. Some House Republicans are expressing concern about what they say is not in the bill.
This bill is a complete and total failure. I got a prominent individual that follows all the border stuff just texted me and said it was, quote, an effing surrender on the border. Because it is. We get nothing. Literally nothing changes on the border.
NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us with the latest. So, Julie, this bill more than 1,000 pages long. How likely is it to pass before tonight's deadline? Where do things stand right now?
Okay, first of all, I'm jealous that I missed the memo. You guys look great. Listen, it's going to go down to the wire today. First, the House is going to have to vote on this bill. We're told sometime mid-morning, but you see that reaction from some House Republicans who are really frustrated with this bill. So certainly the votes are going to be troubling for Speaker Johnson. He's going to rely on a lot of Democratic votes to come through. Remember, he needs 2/3 of the House to pass this. And then the Senate expects to receive this bill sometime around midday. Now, look, they've been working all week to try and come up with some kind of time agreement. Remember, all 100 senators need to come to an agreement to pass this bill ahead of that midnight deadline. They think they'll get there in part because the 2-week Easter recess is set to begin tomorrow. There's also a funeral, for example, of one of the top appropriators' mothers. So certainly they have some jet fumes to get out of town, but it will come down to the wire, guys. It's still not clear if they'll go a little bit past the midnight deadline, but certainly no appetite for a government shutdown as they want to get this appropriations process for this year done with.
So, Julie, as you mentioned, he's going to need some Democrats here. Some House Republicans have also been critical of House Speaker Mike Johnson as he tries to pass this spending bill with this very small Republican majority. What are their concerns?
Well, they're concerned that this bill is too bloated. This really is a product that is bipartisan. Neither side got any extreme wins here or extreme losses. They all kind of moderately benefited from this piece of legislation. Those House conservatives, though, like Chip Roy, that you heard a little bit from at the top, they wanted more wins for Republicans, especially when it comes at the border. And they just think this bill, the price tag, much too high. Take a listen to some of what they had to say.
I've been reluctant to criticize him because I like him, but now what he did here was not right. At least do a CR. We had options to do a CR until April, May. Yes, it would have cut the pork out. To his credit, he met with the Freedom Caucus, but a lot of us are very frustrated.
I'm not talking about consequences. Again, Mike's a friend, but this is a mistake. This is a bad bill. We shouldn't have put it on the floor. Leadership owns it. And anybody who votes for this bill, they own all of the consequences of the mass paroles, of the people being released into the United States.
Now, with those guys like Chip Roy, Ralph Norman that you heard from, they pretty much wanted a full year stopgap government funding measure to get those 1% cuts across the board kicked in. That's something that wouldn't be good for the Departments of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, for example. And certainly those guys, they feel like leadership negotiated this in secret, which they largely did between the White House and all bipartisan leaders.
So, Julie, clearly Homeland Security is a big sticking point in these negotiations. Lawmakers unable to settle on that until this past week. Walk us through the impact a partial shutdown could have on what's happening at the southern border.
Yeah, partial shutdown would be devastating at the southern border. We've reported time and again over the last year how overwhelmed the resources are at the border. Democrats were really pushing for more funding, for more resources for border agents, for more detention beds, for more resources for ICE as well. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they're set to have a $500 million shortfall come May. So you could see if they did agree to a partial shutdown or they agreed to a stopgap funding measure just for that agency alone, that would have really had damaging consequences down the pike. So you hear Republicans complain, well, there wasn't enough border enforcement provisions in this bill. Yeah, that might be true. They didn't get the policy that they wanted, but this is something Democrats wouldn't budge on, especially after Republicans rejected that bipartisan Senate bill just a couple of months ago. Johnson, though, touting a lot of wins at the border, too, especially for border agents in terms of pay increases and especially for technology for the border and that fence over there that prevents migrants from illegally crossing the border. So certainly neither side won here, but you're going to hear a lot of conservatives hammering what went into this product.
All right, Julie, thank you so much.
Well, the Department of Justice is suing Apple in a landmark antitrust case that accuses the tech giant of monopolizing the smartphone market.
Prosecutors say the monopoly drives up costs for customers and stops developers from releasing products and other smart devices. Following the suit, Apple pushed back, accusing the Biden administration of overreaching. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has more.
Attorney General Merrick Garland announcing a landmark lawsuit accusing tech giant Apple of leveraging its dominance over the smartphone market to box out competitors in a way that hurts customers.
Apple has consolidated its monopoly power, not by making its own products better, but by making other products worse. Consumers should not have to pay higher prices because companies break the law.
The Justice Department joining more than a dozen states in nearly a 90-page complaint accusing the company of violating antitrust laws through the iPhone, Apple Watch, and Apple Pay. DOJ saying the tech behemoth, which has more than 1 billion active iPhones worldwide, deliberately makes products less compatible with its competitors' devices.
As any iPhone user who has ever seen a green text message or received a tiny, grainy video can attest,
Garland specifically calling out Apple CEO Tim Cook, referencing this exchange Cook had back in 2022 when he was asked if the company would fix the problems associated with texting video between iPhones and Androids.
Not to make it personal, but I can't send my mom certain videos or she can't send me certain videos. And so we leave.
Buy your mom an iPhone.
Apple today calling the lawsuit wrong on the facts and the law, saying it threatens who we are and the principles that set Apple products apart in fiercely competitive markets. If successful, it would hinder our ability to create the kind of technology people expect from Apple. The lawsuit, the culmination of years of regulatory scrutiny of Apple's wildly popular products, fueling its growth into one of the most valuable companies in the world.
People love buying their iPhones. People enjoy their iPhones. It is the most popular smartphone brand here in the United States.
All right, thanks to Laura Jarrett for that report.
Joining us now for more on what this new lawsuit means for Apple is NBC News legal analyst Danny Zavallo. So, Danny, what is all this about?
So, I'm going to try and sum up antitrust law, the most complex area of law in the United States, in one sentence. Here's how it works. In America, a capitalist system, we say if you work hard and build a tremendous business, you can achieve anything. You can move to the top of your field and dominate your industry. But if you do it too much, then you've gone too far. You've created a monopoly, and the DOJ will come in and break you up and sue you and penalize you, essentially, for rising to the very top of your field. It's a mixed message, because some of the allegations here you could read in the complaint about what Apple's doing wrong, you could say are what makes Apple awesome. I mean, you think about it, and there is a kind of discrimination that goes on. Consider, for example, we've all done it. Have you been in that group text message with your friends, and you've got that one friend who's turning everybody green with the Android.
And then suddenly nobody gets the text and it blows everything up.
Exactly right. That is modern day discrimination that's going on every day. For me, that friend is Randy, and he's a huge pain. We need Randy to switch over. But, you know, that's a very real bias that goes to the core of this complaint by DOJ. And is it a bug or is it a feature? That's the real dilemma when it comes to antitrust law.
Green bubble versus blue.
Does Randy watch Morning News Now?
Randy is a Luddite. Randy, I don't even know if Randy has a TV. He's one of those people. I don't know what goes on with Android users.
We'll never know. We're talking smack.
I feel like Randy's not his real name.
No. Oh, Randy's his real name, and I'll drop the last name, too, because I'm that angry at Randy.
Oh, my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, what is Apple saying about these allegations that they are impacting the free and fair market?
Apple is essentially saying, look, this is the result of our competitive features that we've used to rise above all the competitors. And it's a fair enough argument. The problem for Apple is that DOJ has a lot of Apple's own words by its executives, behind the scenes, probably words in messages they thought would never see the light of day. But they're essentially saying, hey, let's go after this and make Apple the only choice. And I'm paraphrasing. Please, I'm paraphrasing here. But let's make Apple the only choice. And really, again, that could cut both ways. You could look at that and say, hey, that is good old-fashioned American competitive spirit. Or you could say, hey, you're unfairly boxing out these other competitors in the field by making their products inferior because only Apple users can use your products.
You mentioned there's that line between successful and too successful. How does the law draw that line?
Oh, when it comes to antitrust, it's the grayest area because how do you even compare different industries? In fact, how do you even compare different industries in the tech sector? DOJ's gone after Google. They've gone after Meta. But even those companies are vastly different. I mean, I don't have a Facebook phone. I don't have a Google phone. I know they exist. Most of us have iPhones. So even that makes Apple a totally different entity, even though these kinds of actions are brought against tech entities. And then when they're brought against, industries that have nothing to do with tech, how do you even compare them? Antitrust is incredibly complex, and oftentimes right and wrong really exists in the eye of the beholder or the Android user, whatever that maniac's up to.
And oftentimes when something like this is brought, it's because of a merger going on, right? Like some company's trying to buy another company, and all of a sudden, just like we've been talking about with Kroger, there's going to be too many of the same type of grocery store, something like that. When, as a consumer, if it's just like, we all just like the iPhone, like they did a good job, and it's not because they're trying to buy somebody, it's just because their product is good. Does that weigh anything? Does that make it harder for them to actually go after Apple?
Absolutely. You've essentially made Apple's argument that these are not us. These are not the product of us crowbarring others or boxing others out of the industry unfairly. We've done it fairly by creating a superior product. Of course, the DOJ is going to argue that no, by making some of your features only available to Apple users, you're perpetuating this problem, and it's not fair. See, antitrust is really ultimately about a concept of fairness in a very unfair world, which is capitalism, which is hardly a place where everybody comes to play nice. They play to win in this field.
All right. Danny Savalos helping us break it all down.
Yeah, really
Thank you,
interesting.
Danny. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, this morning, the United Nations Security Council is set to vote on a U.S.-backed resolution that calls for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war.
According to a draft seen by NBC News, the resolution also calls for the immediate release of all hostages remaining in Gaza. Comes as Secretary of State Antony Blinken visits Israel today to meet with top officials there. Tensions between the longtime allies continue to grow over Israel's plan to invade Rafah. Throughout Gaza, the ongoing humanitarian crisis does continue. At Al-Shifa Hospital, an IDF spokesperson says Hamas militants have barricaded themselves inside rooms and that Israeli forces are relocating patients as they conduct combat operations. The Gaza media office says 13 patients died this week because patients have no access to medicine and food. NBC News has not independently verified those claims by the IDF or Gaza media office.
NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez is in Tel Aviv with the latest, and Hagar Shamali is also joining us. She is the host of Oh My World on YouTube and a former spokesperson for the U.S. mission to the UN and former NSC director for Syria and Lebanon. Good morning to both of you. Raf, I'll start with you there. What else do we know about this U.S.-sponsored resolution that the UN is set to vote on today?
Savannah, good morning. So the U.S. bringing this resolution up at the UN Security Council in New York, 9 a.m. today. The U.S. says it has been working with the 15 members of the Security Council, trying to smooth the path for this resolution as it goes to a final vote. But you've heard Secretary Blinken here in the region over the last couple of days making the case that this American formula, an immediate ceasefire tied to the release of the hostages, is the best way to pause the fighting and to get humanitarian relief into Gaza. Take a listen.
There's a clear consensus around a number of shared priorities. First, the need for an immediate, sustained ceasefire with the release of hostages. That would create space to surge more humanitarian assistance to relieve the suffering of many people. Children should not be dying of malnutrition in Gaza or anywhere else for that matter.
Now, guys, quick reminder of the complicated politics at the UN Security Council. The U.S. needs the votes of 9 out of the 15 members to pass this resolution, but it also needs to make sure that none of the other permanent members veto it. So that's the U.K. and France, both close U.S. allies. They're not going to veto it. But then all eyes on Russia and China, who could, if they decide to, block this resolution. Guys.
So, Hagar, this draft comes after the U.S. did use its veto to reject 3 prior ceasefire resolutions that came before the Security Council. Is this a sign now that President Biden's taking a harder line with Israel moving forward?
Well, actually, the resolution itself pretty much repeats something that the U.S. has been saying all along, which is if Hamas releases all the hostages, then there would be no need for a war. And so what this resolution does is actually include 2 elements that were missing in the past resolutions. One of them is a demand that all hostages be released in exchange for, as the U.S. calls it, an immediate and sustained ceasefire, but they mean permanent. And number 2, that it recognizes October 7 and Israel's right to defend itself. So what they're trying to say is they're trying to tie it all together. Instead of just calling for a permanent ceasefire with nothing else in exchange, they're trying to remind the world this is why the war started. It was because of October 7. Israel has a right to defend itself, as any country would if faced with a similar terrorist attack. This is something Hamas brought onto itself, and we want it to end. We feel urgent about it because of this incoming famine, but Hamas needs to give up all the hostages in order to do that. So they're trying to lay blame squarely on Hamas.
Raf, let's bring you back here. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is visiting Israel today after holding meetings in Egypt yesterday. What are we watching for with this visit?
So he's already met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and then he met with the extended war cabinet. We're expecting to hear from the secretary a little bit later before he flies back to the U.S., hear a little bit about what was said in those meetings. But we know that towards the top of the agenda is this deep disagreement between the U.S. and Israel over Israeli plans to attack the city of Rafah in southern Gaza, where more than 1 million Palestinian civilians are sheltering. The U.S. has made very clear now that it opposes any large-scale military operation in Rafah. But we've heard from the Israelis that they believe it is the only way to destroy Hamas, to go into Rafah on the ground with ground forces. So today's meetings you could think of as the first in what's going to be a series of encounters between the U.S. and Israeli governments on this topic. Several of the senior Israeli officials who were in the room at this war cabinet meeting are heading to Washington early next week to hear out American concerns about Rafah, to hear about possible alternatives to a full-scale attack. And then we are also going to have the Israeli defense minister at the Pentagon later in the week. So this really the first of what's going to be several high-stakes meetings on this.
And Hagar, looking ahead, Secretary Blinken is pushing to try and finalize an Arab-backed resolution that would lay out the vision for a post-conflict Gaza. That plan would eventually lead to a Palestinian state. Blinken says they're close to having a plan that they could present to Israel, but we know the Israeli government does not appear ready to accept Palestinian statehood. So what does that mean for this plan?
Sure. The Israeli government, certainly Netanyahu himself and Benny Gantz as well, are not in favor of a two-state solution. And by the way, the vast majority of both Israelis and Palestinians do not support a two-state solution. And the reason for that is that neither believes that the other will recognize the other's right to exist. And that's because of years of failed peace plans and spoilers like Hamas. And so that doesn't mean that a two-state solution can't be implemented. You have a number of leaders at the very top in Israel and the Palestinians who are of an older guard, who believe that missed opportunities for a two-state solution that they regret it, and that they wouldn't have been in the situation they are in now if they had a two-state solution, and they understand that that is the only solution going forward. And I agree personally, I mean, that is an opinion. I agree with the U.S. government on that a two-state solution is the only way. So their goal is, if they can get enough broad Arab support, and they can get support at the Security Council by everybody to ask for the hostages back, that they can implement this two-state solution.
Hagar Shamali and Raf Sanchez, thank you both very much.
Former President Donald Trump is facing a tight deadline to post bond for his $464 million civil fraud judgment.
He has until Monday to try to secure the money for the full amount of the fraud case judgment. After that, New York Attorney General Letitia James can begin seizing his assets and property while Trump appeals the verdict. The only problem is he says he doesn't have it. His lawyers say he has no way of securing that much money, and they're calling it a practical impossibility.
NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us now. So, John, what happens if Trump can't secure a bond for that $464 million judgment?
Hey, good morning, guys. This is like the end of a Monopoly game, where you're mortgaging off the last remaining properties or selling them to your cousin Tim. In exchange for a get-out-of-jail-free card. I mean, we're looking at Trump trying to figure out how he can make this judgment. Look, if he's not able to come up with the money, there are a couple things that could happen. Number one, Letitia James could seize his properties, not all of them, but enough to satisfy that judgment. Or Donald Trump could declare bankruptcy, which we've seen him do before in the past. There's some possibility that an appeals court will come in and stay this ruling for some extra time to give him an opportunity to go through the appeal without having to cough up properties.
So if New York Attorney General Letitia James does start to seize Trump's property, if it gets to that point, what does that process even look like?
Good God, Savannah. I think it looks like, first of all, a very politically messy one, right? We've already seen Donald Trump basically on social media complaining about this possibility, about his business being destroyed, about him being unfairly targeted. What does that process look like? With anybody else, I think it would be a pretty sort of standard process of just kind of taking control of these things. But, who knows? I hesitate to make a prediction simply because we just don't know.
Good God. There you go.
Yeah, I know.
So John,
basically,
it seems like Trump has two bad options. If he can't come up with the money, have his property seized, or declare bankruptcy. We know that every part of this legal process has helped him politically. From a political standpoint, how would this affect him?
I think in either case, you're really going to hear kind of the same thing, which is what we've been hearing all along, that he will make the argument that he's being unfairly targeted by Democrats, and that he's, been effectively brought to his knees on a business level by this judgment, and whether that's because he has to cough up $500 million or have assets seized, either one of those outcomes is something that he can play to his base. Now, certainly that doesn't work well with Democratic voters, and I think for many independents, they may believe that Trump has been targeted in some way, but they also may believe that he has done some things wrong.
Hey, John, also, Trump has been able to use donor money to pay for some of his lawyers' fees in the past. Is it possible that money raised through donors could be used here to pay this civil judgment?
Yeah, the campaign finance system is basically like legal money laundering, but even this would be a big test of that. I think that there's basically the Federal Election Commission, which oversees campaign finance, is not as effective as it once was in monitoring it, but still, this would be a huge leap beyond what anything we've ever seen in campaign finance before, and it could create greater legal trouble for Trump. So I think the short answer to your question is no. He won't be using campaign funds for this.
All right. John, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Well, new details are emerging about that prison break in Idaho. This morning, police are confirming that a third person has been arrested and charged in connection with the escape. That is in addition to the escaped inmate Skylar Meade, who's now back behind bars, and his alleged accomplice, Nicholas Umfenor, who's also under arrest. The men are accused of planning what authorities are calling a coordinated attack that left 3 officers wounded when they allegedly tried to free Meade as he was being transported from a hospital in Boise. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin joins us now from Twin Falls, Idaho, with more on this. Dana, good morning. So, Dana, what are police saying at this point about the latest arrest?
Yes, Savannah, good morning to you. They say it is a woman who is now behind bars along with these 2 suspects. They say she was driving the car when they were involved in that pursuit. They have charged her with a felony, eluding, and also possession of a controlled substance. It's unclear what her relationship is to Meade or Umfenor, but right now investigators say she is going to be held accountable for taking part in this sort of escape because she helped them while they were on the run. Savannah, Joe?
So, Dana, the escaped inmate and his suspected accomplice were taken back in custody yesterday. That was after that 36-hour manhunt. Walk us through some of those details there. What was that manhunt like? How were they caught?
Yeah, so they had been combing the state because they said the day that they escaped, they could be anywhere. They were in a Honda Civic. They later ditched that vehicle and got into another one. Investigators say they were found in southern Idaho, but also that they may have traveled to other parts of the state. So around 2 p.m. Thursday, investigators say they found these men. There was a short pursuit, but that it ended with no further gunfire. So they were really happy that no one else was hurt. Savannah, Joe?
Dana, police are now looking into 2 separate homicides, right, that they think may be linked to the prison break. Why do authorities think they are connected, and what are they doing to determine that?
Yeah, so they're really tight-lipped on the connection between these 2 men that were found dead and the 2 suspects. But they said that there was a key piece of evidence left behind by the suspects. Listen to what investigators told us.
Our folks are still on the scenes of those homicides. It has not been that long since we found this out, so we're still investigating. We did find the shackles at the scene of one of the homicides, so that's one of the ways that we tied them together.
So they were arrested here in southern Idaho, but these murders happened in northern Idaho. So that's why investigators say they went across the state. So they're obviously going to be looking at, were these men that they were looking to settle some kind of score, or if it was some random people that happened to get in their way as they were trying to live a life on the run. Savannah?
And Dana, in that same vein, do we know the relationship between the 2? How do Meade and Umfenor know one another?
Yeah, so they are members of the same white supremacist gang, the Aryan Knights, and investigators say they were once housed together in the same maximum security prison, and this happened between 2020 and 2024. But right now, those 2 men are once again back together as jailmate friends inside this county jail behind me, and we're told they are expected to be arraigned sometime today for charges stemming to that brazen escape. Savannah.
Wow, Dana Griffin, what an update. Thank you so much. Well, now let's get a check on your morning news now. Weather forecast on this morning. We have Michelle Grossman in studio with us. Michelle, good morning.
Morning, Savannah. Great to see you. And we have a busy weekend. We have a busy day today, busy weekend, because we have a weekend triple threat. We have 2 storms that are going to be impacting many of us with rain, heavy rain, and also the chance for some snow. So here's your weekend triple threat. There's radar. As we zoom in a little closer, I'll kind of pinpoint where we're going to see the storms. Today, we're seeing the storms in the Midwest. That is snow falling, some really heavy snow falling in portions of the upper Midwest right now. This heavy snow is going to move into New England, and we could see a foot of snow in New England by tomorrow. Then we have the warmer side of the storm. This is a second area of low pressure that's going to bring some really heavy rain. We're already seeing it right now. Could see the chance of some flooding rains and even the chance of severe weather as well. Then that storm number 3, that's going to come on Sunday, and that's going to move across country. So it's going to be a major spring storm with lots of snow in many places and then some additional rain. We have many alerts this morning on this Friday morning. 32 million people under winter alerts in this early part of spring, from Montana all the way to Maine. We also have some flood watches as well. That includes portions of the mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, into New England, also parts of southern Florida. We could see some flooding rains there, but 50 million under flood watches. And we're going to see the chance for some very heavy rain. It's going to be a wet start to the weekend for many. This is what radar looks like right now. You can see it's already active. Those darker colors showing showing us where that heavy rain is falling along the Gulf Coast into portions of the southeast, especially into parts of southern Florida. Again, we could see some gusty storms as well. Then on the cold side, we're looking at that snow falling. Notice you see that pink. We haven't seen that in quite some time. That is a mixture of some rain and snow, some ice, some sleet in some spots as we go throughout the next day or two. So here's the setup here. We're going to see heavy rain, flooding risk for portions of Florida, the southeast, moderate snowfall from the Midwest to the Great Lakes, then really heavy snowfall as we get towards tomorrow in portions of New England. This is going to be a mess here. If you're going out and about, you're off to spring break next week and your flight takes off tomorrow, you definitely want to call ahead towards the airports because we're looking at some really heavy rain falling. We're looking at an icy mix here. We're also looking at snow. Again, could see a foot of snow in many, many spots. So as we go throughout the forecast here, this is through Saturday, locally 18 inches of snow in some spots. That's where you're seeing the pink and purple. That's corresponding to the higher amounts of snow. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be wet, and then a whole lot of rain from the Gulf Coast into the southeast. Those darker colors once again telling us where we're expecting the highest amounts of rain, 6 to 7 inches of rain. That's certainly going to cause some problems and some flooding, and it's not going to let up as it moves up the eastern seaboard tomorrow because we're looking at likely amounts of 4 inches in some spots. You're going to stay indoors tomorrow, grab the umbrella. Some spots you're going to need the snow shovel. But talking about that severe weather threat, this is along the Gulf Coast and then into portions of southern Florida. We could see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour with any strong storms. Could see a tornado or two possible, and certainly the chance of some hail. That continues into the early part of Saturday morning. We're now talking about the Carolinas. Cape Hatteras could see some stronger storms. And then we're still under the gun for some strong storms still in southern Florida tomorrow. And same scenario. We're going to see the winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour and also some really heavy rain. And then also talking about the chance of that heavy snow Sunday into Tuesday. That's the second storm where we could see 18 inches of snow in some spots.
Ooh, 18 inches. Winter
Crazy.
is not over quite yet, even if the calendar says so. Yep. Michelle, thank you. We'll see you in a little bit. Sure. There's much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, medical marvel. A 62-year-old man, now the first ever recipient of a genetically modified pig kidney. We'll tell you about the groundbreaking procedure that's offering hope to thousands of patients. Up first, though, after the break, escape from Haiti. More than a dozen Americans back on U.S. soil after fleeing the country in chaos. What it took to get them out. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A group of Americans are back on U.S. soil after escaping an increasingly violent situation in Haiti. The country is now waiting for an interim prime minister to be designated in an attempt to bring peace to the island. NBC News correspondent Guad Venegas has the details.
It's a challenging mission for U.S. authorities now rescuing and flying U.S. citizens in Haiti to the United States. This after the recent escalation in violence shut down flights going from the country into the United States, leaving hundreds stranded inside of Haiti.
This is what relief looks like. A plane of 14 U.S. citizens, including children, arriving in Central Florida after a harrowing escape from Haiti.
It took a couple of tries, and they didn't give up. They stayed with us until the end of the mission.
Philippe Armand was on board this flight, chartered by the state of Florida, with his wife and his 2-year-old son.
A very difficult part was getting around and making it to the airport to fly out. We were dealing with little kids, not adults, so that made it even more stressful on the parents, and it was just scary.
They were lucky. There are still more than 1,000 Americans in Haiti, but with the airport in Port-au-Prince shuttered, roads closed, daily gun battles on the streets, and armed gangs overrunning the capital, most Americans have no way out.
I would say it's worse than a war zone.
Private security contractors now going door to door trying to rescue them.
Helicopter got surrounded at the airport, or the helicopter had to take off in a manner that was just, I don't want to say unsafe, but again, the tower told him he may not be able to land there again.
Another flight arriving in Miami.
I'm just happy because I get the United States.
66 more Americans now on U.S. soil.
How is the country right now?
The country needs help.
A country in chaos and people terrified for their lives, hoping to get out.
And the flights are expected to continue in the next few days, both operated by the Department of State and also the Florida State chartered flights to get as many Americans out as they can, with the future of the country still full of uncertainty. Back to you.
All right, Guad Venegas, thank you so much. Now let's get you international headlines, starting with Russia launching an aggressive missile attack on Ukraine's capital. Josh Letterman joins us now with that and more. Josh, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. Russia is pummeling Ukraine with the largest missile attack on the capital of Kyiv in weeks. Some 31 missiles were launched at Ukraine overnight. And while Ukraine's military says that it shot them all down, officials say falling debris injured at least 17 people, including an 11-year-old girl. This is coming after Russia's President Putin accused Ukraine of trying to disrupt his re-election last week and vowed retribution. Now, going to India, where Delhi's chief minister has been arrested amid a crackdown on the ruling opposition party. Arvind Kejriwal is a rising political figure in India, and his supporters say the money laundering charges against him are an effort by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government to silence him. Kejriwal denies those allegations, and his party says he will challenge his arrest to the Supreme Court. And if you've ever wanted to meet the world's oldest tortoise, now might be your chance. His name is Jonathan. He's about 192 years old, and he lives in one of the most remote inhabited places on Earth, St. Helena. It is a tiny island about halfway between Africa and Brazil that used to take about 5 days by boat to get to. But the island has just started regular commercial flights, and now tourists are flocking to the island to try to snag a selfie with Jonathan. Savannah?
I would love to do that, to get a selfie with Jonathan. I hope it's okay for him, though, meeting all those people. That's very cool. Josh Letterman, thank you so much. Coming up, a major breakthrough offering hope for kidney patients.
Dialysis was never made to be a permanent solution.
Could it essentially make dialysis obsolete?
That's our goal.
Up next, we'll tell you about the first of its kind transplant of a pig kidney to a human. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. Doctors in Massachusetts are celebrating a first. They have successfully transplanted a genetically modified pig kidney into a living human, a person. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda takes a closer look at this groundbreaking surgery.
Inside this Mass General operating room, a medical milestone. For the first time, a team of doctors transplanted a genetically modified pig kidney into a 62-year-old man whose previously donated kidney failed and was struggling on dialysis.
It's historical.
Dr. Leo Riella first suggested a pig kidney, knowing the patient could not wait for a human one. Of the 100,000 people in the U.S. on transplant waiting lists, the vast majority need kidneys.
Most of our patients have to wait for an organ from the deceased donor list. And unfortunately, if they have to stay years on dialysis, that means their health is going to continue to deteriorate.
Our immune systems typically reject foreign tissue. But through cutting-edge CRISPR technology from eGenesis, this pig kidney had 69 genomic edits to improve compatibility and to reduce the risk of infection from viruses. Still, animal-to-human transplants are riddled with unknowns, including how long the pig kidney will last. But so far, the patient's nephrologist says the results appear promising.
He has the surgery on Saturday, and we think he's on track for discharge this coming Saturday.
So within a week?
Within a week.
In a statement, the patient said, "I saw it not only as a way to help me, but a way to provide hope for the thousands of people who need a transplant to survive."
We need a permanent solution. And dialysis was never made to be a permanent solution.
Could it essentially make dialysis obsolete?
That's our goal.
Emily Ikeda, NBC News, Boston.
All right, we've just got to dig in on this more. Let's bring in NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Sahil for more on this. Dr. Sahil, I mean, just incredible, right? First of all, just your reaction to this.
I mean, yeah, amazing, and a lot of people waiting for this, Savannah. About 100,000 people on the organ transplant list every year. 90,000 of those are for kidneys, so a lot of people really, really excited about this.
And so are there greater implications than, for example, just kidney transplants? I mean, could we do this with other organs? Is that what we're going to learn?
That's the hope. And really, we have an organ shortage here in this country. There are so many people, about 17 people every day die waiting on the organ transplant list. So, the whole reason we're exploring this in the first place is just because we have such a big need, whether it's kidneys, whether it's heart, whether it's liver. There really is a big need for this.
This is obviously quite novel. We're talking about it as this kind of one example of something like this going so well. But do you think that this could become more standard procedure? Is it going to be approved by the FDA?
So we have a long way to go, right? So this was kind of a one-off transplant. And in order for this to get approved by the FDA, we have to see these large trials at different hospitals and a lot of patients sort of getting this done. But this was done under what's called the FDA's compassionate use program, meaning that patients who are going for these one-off sort of experimental procedures like this, really, Savannah, they don't have a lot of other options. So you may see some headlines about people who receive these animal organs, maybe only living a few months. I wouldn't read too much into that. These patients tend to be very sick, so it's really too early to say how long this will last.
But we also heard in Emily's piece there that there are risks here. I mean, I can imagine, with any type of transplant, never mind something, again, so novel. What are those risks? Walk us through that.
So anytime you cut somebody open, right, anytime you have surgery, there's always that risk for infection. And with organ transplants, you worry about, will the body reject it? Will my body just say, no, I don't want this outside thing in me? But Savannah, with this one, with animal transplantation, the thing we worry about is infection, meaning that some viruses that may be more likely to infect pigs, for example, things that we don't normally have to worry about, could we be introducing that into people, especially people whose immune systems would be weak because of the transplant. So that's really what we're waiting to see in the months going ahead.
When you think about the organ donor list generally, how many people are waiting, how many organs are needed? If suddenly we are able to find a way to safely be using animal organs, how much of an impact does that make?
Huge. And you heard from that surgeon just a moment ago saying, we hope to make dialysis obsolete one day. And for those who don't know, when you're waiting for a kidney, you are tied to a dialysis machine. It's something you have to do 3 times a week. It takes hours at a time. You have to sort of plan your life around it. It's a big burden for patients. And if there are things like hurricanes or natural disasters, then all of a sudden these patients can't get to those dialysis centers. So this, just reading the reaction to this online, I think there's a lot of people out there who are waiting for organs, who are very, very excited. Even just a sliver of hope here means a lot right now.
So incredible. Dr. Akshay Syal, so good to have you yet again in studio with us. Thank you so much for coming by.
Anytime.
Coming up, nearly $6 billion more dollars in student loans canceled. When we come back, what borrowers need to know about this latest round of student debt forgiveness. Stay with us on Morning News Now.
Welcome back. The Biden administration is forgiving another round of student loans.
That's right. According to a statement from the administration, nearly 80,000 public service workers, that's teachers, nurses, firefighters, they're going to have roughly $6 billion in loans simply go away. Now, if that's you, the White House says you'll get a congratulatory email sometime next week.
So look for your email there. That's not all. The White House also says another 380,000 people will get emails next week from the administration telling them they're about 1 to 2 years out from getting similar relief, but the exact amount for those borrowers has not yet been disclosed.
Now, if you're counting, that brings the federal loan forgiveness total under the Biden administration to more than $143 billion for nearly 4 million borrowers.
Now, there's some more financial headlines, starting with another major auto recall that's affecting some big names.
CNBC's Bertha Coombs joins us with that and other news. Hey, Bertha, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Joe and Savannah. Yeah, let's start off with Hyundai and Kia. They're recalling nearly 150,000 electric vehicles in the U.S. Possible defects in the charging unit could actually cause the cars to lose power while driving. Hyundai is recalling certain models of the Ioniq and Genesis brands, while Kia is recalling the EV6 model. The automakers already recalled about 170,000 vehicles in South Korea. They did that last week for the same reason. Owners can have their cars inspected to replace the charge unit and update the software free of charge. Meantime, in California, State Farm may not be a neighbor anymore. The insurer is dropping coverage for more than 70,000 homes and apartments in the Golden State starting this summer. The move comes after the insurance giant announced that it would not write any new policies there. State Farm is the largest insurer in California, so this is going to be a problem for folks there. The insurer cites soaring costs, the increasing risk of catastrophes like wildfires, and outdated regulations as reasons for not renewing coverage. Meantime, United Airlines will now let Mileage Plus members pool their frequent flyer miles with friends and family. Groups of up to 5 people can share and redeem miles. One member of the group can be designated the pool leader. Other members can then contribute miles to the pool, which can be used to buy tickets or get upgrades, among other things. It's kind of nice to be able to
that is pretty
put
cool.
it together,
Also,
although I don't think I'd want to be the pool leader.
Right, or it could go terribly awry.
What do you mean?
Oh, look, my sister is on vacation in Hawaii with her entire family. Where are our points?
Sounds like you got to talk to your sister.
Communication is important.
You need a trustworthy pool leader.
There you go.
Exactly. Bertha, thank you. Good to see you.
Coming up, a home run for women in the world of gaming. For the first time ever, players of the MLB's newest video game can now choose to take the field as a woman.
After the break, more on the movement to pay tribute to some real-life game changers. Stay with us. You're watching Morning News Now.
Our favorite Barbie is now taking on a new project. Margot Robbie is set to produce a new film based on the wildly popular video game franchise, The Sims. You know, the game where you can create fun, sometimes slightly creepy new families, even entire worlds. Robbie is grabbing her controller, so to speak, and taking on the title with her production company, Lucky Chap. Kate Herron, best known for directing the first season of Marvel's Loki, has been tapped to direct. So far, we don't have any details on a release date or, quite frankly, even a plot. But to help you get prepared, I want everyone to know I do speak a little Simlish myself, and just in case they do decide to speak their native language in the movie, Sul Sul in Simlish means hello. So, Sul Sul. Let's end this hour with a major step forward in the world of sports, and it comes appropriately during Women's History Month. For the first time ever, Major League Baseball gamers can play as a woman. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin has more on the inspiration behind that historic call.
Video game lovers are in for a history-making addition to MLB The Show. For the first time, fans can play the game as a woman to honor the strides women have made in professional baseball.
So this is kind of like your sanctuary, huh? 100%, yeah, my piece.
The female character in the game is actually inspired by the first woman to play for an MLB-affiliated team, Kelsey Whitmore.
I was super excited. I thought it was so cool. I remember growing up playing the game.
Playing the sport since the age of 6, from Little League to high school, baseball has always been her passion.
I actually ended up playing softball in college because there were no opportunities to play baseball at the time.
Determined to make her mark as a professional, in 2022, Kelsey made her way into the Atlantic League playing for the Staten Island Ferry Hawks as the first woman to play for an MLB-affiliated team. And Kelsey's journey through America's favorite pastime hasn't always been easy.
Were there any struggles there because you are a woman? One of the biggest struggles is just being alone. Whether it's you're by yourself in your own locker room or your own room, maybe not even having a locker room half the time. And when it comes on field, constantly trying to prove yourself that you belong.
But the women's national team pitcher and outfielder is proving women belong on the same field as men.
It's a privilege to be able to be at that level and to just do what I love.
Kelsey's hope is that more girls and women join the growing rank of female firsts in the sport.
You have an announcer, you have coaches, you have managers, umpires. It's really cool to see the growth of women in baseball, not just on field, but as well as in the front offices in those different roles.
Take, for example, Ashley Sanders. She helped develop the game's newest version.
I wish I can go back and tell my 13-year-old self that, hey, you may not have made it onto this actual baseball diamond, but there's a baseball diamond waiting for you on the other side of your screen through your PlayStation console.
And Veronica Alvarez, the first MLB girls baseball ambassador.
It's all for representation and all to show little girls and women that they belong in this game.
A game that's getting more competitive and more inclusive. And if you've ever had a dream that felt insurmountable, here's Kelsey's advice.
It'll be hard. Nothing will come easy. You got to work for it. Even at times when you question your worth, know that you are capable and you're powerful in ways that you may not even know.
Dana Griffin, NBC News.
Love that story. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us. The news continues right now. Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah will be with us a little later in the hour. Right now on Morning News Now, the clock is ticking on Capitol Hill. Lawmakers racing to avert another government shutdown, which could just be hours away. We've got more on the $1.2 trillion spending package that's now headed for a vote, plus how a potential shutdown could affect both America's economy and your day-to-day. Also this morning, in custody, that massive prison break manhunt in Idaho comes to an end. How police managed to capture 2 men, an escaped inmate and his alleged accomplice, and what we know about the third person arrested overnight. We're also watching your health. A popular but pricey weight loss drug will now be covered by Medicare, but not for the reason you might think, how it could help patients with an increased risk of heart disease. And let the madness begin, a major March Madness bracket buster right out of the gate. Powerhouse Kentucky coming to the big dance with two left feet, stumbling to 14-seed Oakland last night. We've got you covered with all the day one wins and upsets as the NCAA women get ready to take the court. I'll tell you, my bracket, no longer perfect. Let's begin this hour on Capitol Hill, where the clock is ticking for lawmakers to pass a funding bill and avoid a potential partial government shutdown this weekend. Yesterday, Congress released the text of the $1.2 trillion spending bill that must be passed before midnight Eastern time. As you might recall, earlier this week, congressional leaders and President Biden announced a deal to fund the government through the end of the fiscal year in September. But that doesn't mean this is a done deal. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us now with the latest. So, Ryan, more than 1,000 pages of this spending bill were released yesterday. What should we know about it?
Well, we know that it needs to get passed before midnight tonight in order for the government to avoid a partial government shutdown. And there is optimism on Capitol Hill that they can get it done. Nothing is easy, though. And as you rightly point out, there is 1,000 pages to this bill. And there's a lot of things that a lot of lawmakers are unhappy with. Republicans in particular think that it spends too much, that there hasn't been enough reform as it relates to the situation at the southern border. So it's going to require a lot of Democrats in order to get this bill over the finish line. In the House of Representatives in particular, they are going to be forced to vote for this bill under suspension, which is just a procedural term, but it means that they need 2/3 of the House in order to pass this, not just a simple majority. So it's going to require bipartisan support. They do feel optimistic, but as we know with this Congress, Joe, nothing is done until it's done. So we're going to have to see how things play out today.
Most certainly, Ryan. You know, the spending bill does not include any new funding for Israel or Ukraine, something that's been a big issue for months now. What's the status of that?
Well, that means, Joe, is that it's likely that once Congress gets through this appropriations process today, that they're not even going to address that supplemental package that provides funding to Israel and Ukraine until well into April, because both the House and Senate are scheduled to go on a 2-week Easter recess. And there doesn't appear to be a ton of urgency, at least from House Republicans, to move this package forward. The House Speaker Mike Johnson has said repeatedly that he wasn't even going to address the bill that was already passed in the Senate until they had finished the spending package, because they're going to basically go up right until the bitter end in this appropriations process. That means that everything's going to be delayed until April. Republicans, of course, are floating this idea of making the package a loan to Ukraine to try and solve some of the concerns that Republicans have about the amount of money that is heading in Ukraine's direction. That's still an open conversation, though. There's been no substance put behind that particular proposal. So we'll have to see when they come back in 2 weeks whether or not they're able to make any progress.
Ryan, you note the optimistic tone, but what are some of the possible hurdles that could get in the way of Congress passing this by the deadline tonight?
Well, the biggest hurdle, Joe, could be that they simply don't have enough votes. There is at least a collection of Democrats, maybe a dozen or more, that are not comfortable with this funding package for a number of reasons, that are likely to vote no. And on the Republican side, there could be more than 100 Republicans that vote against it. They need 290 votes in the House in order to get it over the finish line. So the Republican whip team is working really hard to make sure that they can get their members in line to vote for this package. The House Speaker would prefer that the majority of Republicans in his conference pass this legislation or vote for it. It just would make it look easier for him and show and demonstrate that he has the power of his conference behind him. That's no guarantee at this point. They're just hoping they get enough votes for it to pass. And that's one of the things we're going to be watching when they gavel in here and begin that process around 11 o'clock Eastern.
All right, we know you will. Ryan Nobles, thank you so much. From Ryan to Brian, for more on the impact a government shutdown could have, let's bring in NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung. So, Brian, we hope this is all a hypothetical here, but what agencies, what workers would be impacted if we do see a shutdown?
Yeah, good morning, Joe. I mean, there could be real impacts for Americans that they would see, but we have to remember that, as Ryan was kind of laying out, it all depends on how things happen today on March 22nd, because at 11:59 p.m., that's when we would transition into a partial shutdown going into Saturday. I mean, it would really be a minimal impact unless the deal extends past Sunday, because over the weekend, it's not like there's going to be too much interfacing with various parts of our government. government. But I want to show you just kind of the specific agencies that will be impacted, given the fact that, given where we are in the discussions right now, there are some parts of the government that are already funded, but these are 6 examples of the ones that are not yet funded. So defense, financial services in general, government, legislative branch, state and foreign operations. But these are the 2 that might be most facing regular Americans: Homeland Security, also labor, health and human services, and education as well. So there's a lot of implications for this, but a lot of unknowns as well, because given that this is a partial shutdown, we need to see the details of exactly how they might avoid that. We also don't know what a shutdown might look like if we do get to Monday and some of these government agencies are interrupted, Joe.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of unanswered questions. Whenever we're talking about a shutdown, we hear words like essential and non-essential. What are some of the changes that Americans might notice right away if we do see a partial shutdown?
Yeah, well, as is the case in previous shutdowns, we've seen that some essential workers do have to go to work, but they don't get paid. There are a lot of kind of interesting things that happen when you have that dynamic. But look, we had talked about Border Patrol, active duty service members at the TSA at the airport, as well as at the IRS in the middle of tax filing season. These are where you might see agency workers not getting paid, and maybe they would just walk out on the job. That has happened historically at the TSA in the past. Now, I also want to point out that we have seen IRS workers that could face furloughs into next week. There are 60,000 that could face those furloughs, as well as at the Department of Education during a time where people are applying for college, right? 89% of the agency could be furloughed if this does happen, and that would be pretty big for the people that have already been seeing a lot of delays in terms of finding out what their financial aid is for the prospective freshman years starting later on this year, Joe.
You talk about the past. How have past shutdowns affected the economy? Walk us through some of the takeaways we've learned.
Yeah, well, the last time we did see a shutdown was in 2019. The TSA and the IRS, there were worker no-shows because, again, essential workers that were even there, they were not getting paid. So some of them opted just to not show up for work, which you can imagine at the airport would be a pretty big deal. It doesn't take many people walking out on the job to bring the traffic at an airport to a standstill. We also saw a financial impact. There was an estimate that came from the CRFB that showed $11 billion were lost during that shutdown, $3 billion, which they estimate to have been lost permanently. But for what it's worth, Wall Street didn't really seem to care all that much. Markets were up 10%, Joe.
All right, Brian, thank you so much. Appreciate it. In Idaho this morning, that statewide manhunt for an escaped inmate and his suspected accomplice has officially come to an end. Both are now in custody, and overnight, a third person was arrested in connection to the ordeal. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin is in Twin Falls, Idaho, with the latest. Dana, good morning.
Joe, good morning. These arrests bring to an end an intense search. Authorities say these men traveled across the state and may have killed 2 people before they were tracked down. Well, right now, they are behind me inside this county jail, along with a woman who may have helped them during their time on the run. This morning, a new arrest in Idaho after the capture of escaped inmate Skylar Mead and his alleged accomplice, Nicholas Umfenauer. Authorities now confirming they have a third person, Tanya Huber, in custody. KTVB reporting the prosecutor says Huber was driving one of the cars when Mead and Umfenauer were arrested. The 2 men were taken into custody Thursday afternoon in Twin Falls County, nearly 130 miles from where Mead broke free. Investigators are also looking into 2 separate homicides in northern Idaho that may be connected to the men's escape.
We did find the shackles at the scene of one of the homicides, so that's one of the ways that we tied them together.
The FBI was involved in the arrest operation, which officials say did not require extensive force. That a stark contrast to how the breakout began.
Any unit available for a man gun, St. Al's.
Mead was about to be transported from a Boise area hospital back to prison early Wednesday morning when Umfenauer opened fire at corrections officers. In the chaos, investigators say Umfenauer and Mead fled in this gray Honda Civic. Police calling the shootout a brazen and coordinated attack that left 3 officers injured.
This was a planned event.
Police say both men are members of a white supremacist gang and were considered armed and dangerous as they evaded police and traveled across the state. Authorities received hundreds of tips before tracking them down in the southern part of the state. Now both men are being held in Twin Falls County Jail as investigators look into their involvement in other potential crimes. Investigators are still trying to determine exactly what went into planning Mead's escape. We know those 2 suspects are expected to be arraigned today for crimes connected to that brazen escape. Joe?
All right, Dana, thank you so much. Retired Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer is opening up about some of the monumental moments that unfolded in his time on the high court, including that documents leak that shook Washington. This all comes ahead of the release of his new book, Reading the Constitution: Why I Chose Pragmatism, Not Textualism. Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker got a chance to sit down with Justice Breyer, joins us now with a look ahead to that interview. Kristen, good morning.
Hi, Joe. Good morning. Good to see you. I did sit down with former Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer, who retired from the High Court nearly 2 years ago. This was a wide-ranging interview at a time when the court is really at the center of the nation's most intense political debate. So in his new book, which you just showed there, Reading the Constitution, he urges the justices to look beyond the words as originally written in the Constitution to the real-world consequences their rulings may have. And in one of our most notable exchanges, I asked him about the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade and reports that prior to the leak of the draft decision, discussions were actually coalescing around a compromise that would have left Roe in place while imposing a ban on abortion after 15 weeks. Take a look. How disruptive was the leak to the court and to the relationships that you describe?
It was unfortunate.
Were you angry?
You try to avoid getting angry where that effect. You try in a job, you try to remain as calm, reasonable, and serious as possible. Mm-hmm. I think it was unfortunate, that leak.
How much discussion was there about a potential compromise around 15 weeks?
Well, you know as much about that as I do. You saw what Chief Justice Roberts wrote. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you see what is written, the normal situation is before something is written in the conference, people in some form or other will discuss what they're thinking of writing. Not always, mm-hmm. and not identical, but there's usually some discussion.
Did you think that a compromise was possible before the leak? Around 15 weeks?
I usually hope for compromise.
So you were hopeful there could be a compromise?
Oh, you want to put words in my mouth. I'm careful what I say on this, because I say our interests are different. Mm-hmm. I don't want to make news. I've written what I thought. Mm-hmm. If you think there's news in here or in the dissent, go right ahead. Well, but I don't want to say something in addition.
Yeah. Like just to be clear, though, did you think a compromise was possible?
I always think it's possible. Mm-hmm. I always think it's possible, usually up until the last minute.
You can see there the justice very careful with his words. And, Joe, I also asked him about the current cases before the Supreme Court at the heart of the 2024 election, his reflections on the state of American democracy, and how he feels about his decision to retire. Some really revealing and just fascinating moments there. It was really an honor to be able to sit down and talk to him.
That's the word I was about to use, Kristen. A fascinating conversation. Job well done. I look forward to seeing more of it coming up this weekend.
Thanks,
you can
Joe.
catch that full exclusive interview between Kristen Welker and Justice Breyer this Sunday on Meet the Press. And you can see that also right here on NBC News Now. Rain is headed to the East Coast with snow expected in some areas. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us now with the weekend forecast. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Yeah, we have a little bit of everything. And it's going to be a wet weekend for so many of us. Some needing snow boots, shovels, and some needing rain boots. A lot of us actually needing the rain boots. This is what it looks like today. We have a lot going on today and the next day, actually really into Tuesday of next week. So on the cold side of the system, we're looking at snow throughout the upper Midwest and to the Great Lakes, heavy, wet snow. We're going to see accumulating to 6 inches in some spots. And then on the warmer side, we're looking at heavy rain. We're going to see flooding rains in some spots on the Gulf Coast all the way down to the southeast, especially in southern Florida. We could see 6-7 inches of rain. That's going to prompt flooding there. A little bit of rain throughout the Ohio Valley. Could see a bit of snow mix in there as well. We're dry in the middle of the country for the most part. We're going to be warm in portions of southern Texas. But then in the west, we're going to see a western storm moving onshore, and that's going to create some problems over the next several days. This is what Saturday looks like. We see that rain system system that we're seeing in the Gulf Coast, the southeast today, moving up the eastern seaboard. Lots of rain. So if you're traveling tomorrow, call ahead to your airports. The roadways are going to be tough as well, because see all these dark colors here? That's where we're going to see the heavy rain falling. It's going to be rainy as well. Could see some flooding rains once again in the mid-Atlantic, also the northeast. And this is going to extend into portions of New England, but also looking at heavy snow. Could see up to 18 inches of snow in upstate New York, parts of upstate New York, and also the northern parts of New England. So skiers delight there, holding strong in the early parts of spring. Back to the west, we're looking at snow from Montana throughout portions of the Central Plains. And then Sunday's a mess too. Lots of snow in the northern tier of the nation. And then notice on the warm side, we're tracking the chance of severe storms in the Central Plains, the southern Central Plains, where we could see some tornadoes, some hail, some really heavy rain. Lots of alerts this morning, 32 million people under winter alerts. That's where you're seeing the white here, the northern tier of the nation from Montana all the way to Maine, and also flood alerts a lot, 50 million under alerts. That's throughout the mid-Atlantic, the northeast, into parts of New England, and also southern Florida. That's where we could see those 7 inches of rain. So this is what radar looks like right now. Already active this morning as we head out on this Friday morning. We're looking at that snow falling in the upper Midwest into the Great Lakes. That's where you're seeing blue on the map there. And then lots of green, lots of red, lots of orange. That's where we're seeing the heaviest rain. So along the Gulf Coast into parts of the southeast and southern Florida. That will be the theme as we go throughout today, into tomorrow, into Sunday. A second storm comes on shore Sunday into the early part of next week. Snowfall forecast, 18 inches. That's where you're seeing those prettier colors, the pink colors. If you like pink, if you like purple. I shouldn't have said pretty. I mean, we like blue too, Joe. But we're looking
blue
at
can be pretty.
Blue can be very pretty. I don't know why I said that. And then the rainfall forecast, 6 to 7 inches in the southern parts of Florida. But look at this as we go up the coast here, the eastern seaboard, the major cities, New York City, Boston, D.C., under the gun for some really heavy rain. We could see up to 4 inches, and that's going to prompt some flooding. Severe weather threat along the Gulf Coast today. Winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Could see a tornado or two, also some hail, and that's going to extend into Saturday as well in southern Florida. Could see some strong storms.
Yeah, so Saturday,
and I like
not
your outfit.
pretty. Thank you. I like your outfit. You're pink.
Thanks.
You're pretty in pink. Saturday, not pretty. Sunday, prettier.
Better.
There we go.
Better in a lot of spots.
All right, Michelle,
Yeah.
thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too.
International headlines now, starting with a historic step for Bosnia and its bid to join the European Union. NBC's Josh Letterman has that and other world news. Josh, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Bosnia and Herzegovina may be the newest nation on its way to joining the European Union after it formally opened negotiations to join the EU bloc. Now, this Balkan country had applied to join the EU 8 years ago and has made major political reforms, prompting EU leaders to clear the way for those talks to formally start. It is a historic step that comes as the EU is trying to demonstrate its influence as a counterweight to Russia and its war in Ukraine. Now heading over to Canada, where the government is trying for the first time to limit the number of temporary residents, such as international students. There has been a major increase in recent years in people coming temporarily to Canada, with the immigration minister now saying Canada has become addicted to temporary workers. Canada's government now hopes that these new limits will lower rising costs for housing and for health care. And if you're a fan of Paddington Bear, you might be surprised to find him not here in London, but in Bolivia. A conservation program in Bolivia has found at least 60 Jucamari bears, which is a vulnerable Andean species that is also the inspiration for Paddington Bear. They used cameras in the forest and were able to find a thriving community of the bears walking through the trees and just playing around, although no signs of any marmalade there in the forest yet there, Joe.
Literally just going to ask. They've got it stashed away in a tree or something. All right, Josh Letterman, thank you so much. Coming up, we're going to take a closer look at the future of fertility. After the break, Savannah's conversations with women in their 20s about why they've made the choice to freeze their eggs in the face of that controversial IVF ruling out of Alabama. That is next on Morning News Now. We're back now with a look at a decision by the government that may soon make popular weight loss medications available to more Americans.
Medicare now says they will cover Wegovy for patients with heart disease risks, something experts say would give millions access to the expensive drug.
Joining us now for more on this is senior business correspondent Christine Roman. So how big of an impact will this have?
Look, this is millions of people we're talking about, and this started because the FDA approved this drug for heart disease risks, right? This is a weight loss drug, Wegovy, but approved it for heart disease risks, and now Medicare following suit and saying its Part D patients will be able to have it covered. So that is really important because private insurers follow Medicare's lead, and Medicare by law cannot fund weight loss drugs after the fen-phen thing from like 20 years ago, a big scandal where taxpayer dollars were running after some of these unproven weight loss stuff. So it's just really important for public health here. And we're not talking about treating the underlying obesity, it's the other things that go along with the obesity, which is heart risks.
Yeah, so this is essentially right now the only update, right, is these heart disease risks. Because people are going to hear this headline and, as you're saying, wonder, well, what about weight loss? And that's still not looking likely.
But these things go hand in hand. Obesity, 70% of Americans are overweight or clinically obese, 70%. And the highest cause of death, the biggest cause of death in this country is heart disease, much of it related to obesity, right? So these things do sort of go hand in hand. It's also important to note Medicaid, which is the program for low-income Americans. Also, those patients, if they're prescribed this drug for heart disease risks, it will be covered. Ozempic is already covered by Medicare if it is prescribed for diabetes. Access is still going to be an issue here because, look, they're making this stuff as fast as they possibly can. But for people who don't have it covered by insurance, it is really expensive. I mean, popular and expensive are the two words I think that you can say. $1,300 for just one package, $16,000 for a year. So access has really been a challenge and really key here for public health.
All right. Christine Romans, thank you so much.
Thank you. Always good to have you. Well, women across social media have long shared their fertility journeys, from IVF to freezing their eggs, finding a community of support online. Well, recently, one young woman right there, Shania, went viral for freezing her eggs at the age of 25. Well, it's actually more common than you think. There's an emerging trend of younger women taking on this costly procedure. I looked into this trend to see, is it necessary to start so young?
Hi, I'm Shania, and I am freezing my eggs, and I'm 25 years old.
Shania Bopa documented everything about her egg freezing journey, from that first shot of hormones,
I don't know if I can do this,
to the final one at the Toronto Maple Leafs game. Her videos, her age, catching a lot of attention.
How many people watch this?
Over 10 million views, so quite a few.
So why 25 instead of 28, 29, 30?
The main reason is A, my insurance was covering the medication costs, and B, this is the youngest my eggs and the best quality they'll ever be in my life. And if I know this is something I want for future me, why not do it now?
Egg freezing allows a woman to preserve her fertility, her eggs, and it's becoming a more common work perk. In 2022, some 16% of large employers offered coverage for the procedure, according to benefits consultant Mercer. Now, physicians like Dr. Brooke Wirtz at NYU Langone are seeing younger women walk through the door.
Is this something you're actually seeing here at this clinic?
Yeah, absolutely. When we first rolled out egg freezing, the percentage of patients under 30 that were coming in were about 1%. And now we're about 10% of our patients are coming in. And the amount of egg freezing we're doing has increased fivefold in the last 10 years.
I've done 2 rounds of egg freezing, and I have 23 eggs frozen.
When then 25-year-old Katie learned her tech company offered egg freezing as a benefit, she decided to go for it.
It allows me to put my career first. It also allows me to really focus on finding the right partner.
What do you think about those early 20s, mid-20s being a time to do this?
I love it. I want to freeze eggs in patients that are young. They're going to get more eggs. They're going to get healthier quality eggs. And that's who egg thawing and egg freezing really works in.
A 2022 NYU Langone study shows age does matter for all of the patients who returned to use their eggs. The live birth rate was 39%, but of those who froze under the age of 38, that success rate went up to 50%. As for the downsides, it's a 2-week commitment full of appointments and hormonal shots meant to stimulate egg growth.
I felt like my ovaries went from little clementines to grapefruits. Like, you feel really swollen.
And the price? Without coverage, it costs an average of $16,000 to retrieve and freeze eggs, a figure that can vary across the country. And storage of those eggs can be between $500 and $1,000 a year. A cost these 20-somethings could potentially carry for longer. But that doesn't faze this New Yorker.
It's the cheapest rent in New York City.
And when women go to use those eggs, it's far from guaranteed they'll turn into babies.
Is this an insurance policy in the way that we mean it, which is a way to have a baby later if you want it?
I would not characterize it as an insurance policy. Eggs have a lot they still have to do. They have to survive a thaw, fertilize, grow, be healthy, and that's quite variable.
And now there's a new complication.
The Alabama ruling happened on the day of my retrievals.
33-year-old Alex Barron did 2 retrievals in Austin, Texas, and fears Texas may move in the direction of Alabama, defining embryos as children, which caused some clinics in that state to halt IVF services.
I'm scared to see what's to come, not just about embryos, but eggs in the future.
Barron isn't waiting to see how it plays out.
I would like to get them to Pennsylvania as soon as possible.
Freezing your eggs, a personal, potentially expensive choice with no guaranteed outcomes, but for more young women, it's worth it.
Does having done this in some way feel like a weight lifted off your shoulders?
Definitely. I feel less stressed about my potential career and goals.
So how young is too young for this procedure? Well, Dr. Ward said there's not really an answer to that, but you can take a deep breath because you can wait until your late 20s, early 30s, and the egg quality will still be good. You don't have to do this at age 25. She also said if you or someone you know is considering freezing eggs, don't just find a good doctor. Make sure the lab they are tied to has a good record of thawing eggs and then creating and transferring embryos. That is one of the most important pieces of this puzzle when you're actually going to have that baby rather than this procedure now.
That's something you keep in mind with anything you do medically. So this has got you thinking about this too, right?
Yeah, it totally has. I mean, my situation is I'm 32. I'm newly-ish married. I like to say it's been a year and a half, and we think we want to have kids, but we're not sure when. So what I am going to do is at least go through kind of exploring this. There's a lot of blood draws you can do, ultrasounds where you can get really good information, really good baseline metrics for yourself. And then if the doctor thinks it's a good idea, go ahead with this procedure, and we'll share all that because I wish that I knew more, heading into this. So we hope that that helps with that.
Information helps.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly. Well, coming up, a lengthy legal back and forth that might not be so black or white.
After the break, I've got the latest on the ongoing battle over the estate of Michael Jackson that's now pitting the King of Pop's son against the singer's own mother. Stay with us. That's up next. Welcome back. A hearing is scheduled today in an ongoing legal battle over Michael Jackson's estate. This specific issue is pitting the King of Pop's son against the singer's mother. NBC News obtained court documents filed this week by Jackson's son Blanket, who now goes by BG. Put simply, he doesn't want the estate to pay his grandma's ongoing legal bills as she continues to battle the estate's executors. It's just the latest dispute over the lucrative estate 15 years after MJ's death.
It's a legal thriller pitting Michael Jackson's 22-year-old son, BG, against his 93-year-old grandmother, Catherine. In a court filing in L.A., BG wants to block Catherine from using estate dollars to pay for a court appeal. Now, the documents don't spell out exactly what Catherine's appealing, but they do say the court recently gave the estate's executors approval to move forward with a transaction of paramount significance to BG, both financially and personally. Whatever that transaction is, BG and Catherine both opposed it, but only Catherine's appealing. It's unclear if all this is related to the reported $600 million sale of half of Jackson's music catalog to Sony, including iconic songs like Billie Jean. BG, the youngest of Jackson's 3 kids, was born into fame and infamy when his father dangled the baby, then named Blanket, out of a window. Today, BG keeps a low profile, though last month won an award at the Santa Monica Film Festival for a drama he directed. Though it's been nearly 15 years since Michael Jackson died, his estate remains lucrative, topping Forbes' list of highest-paid dead celebrities in 2023, bringing in $115 million.
So Michael Jackson is honestly in a category of his own when it comes to these estates.
A lot of money is generated by MJ the Musical on Broadway, endorsed by the King of Pop's kids, Paris and Prince, at the Tony Awards.
A lot of people seem to think our dad, Michael Jackson, changed popular music forever. And who are we to disagree?
A new biopic titled Michael is slated to open next year, generating more money for the estate. It's unclear how the film will handle accusations of sexual abuse, which Jackson, his family, and estate have always denied. But we do know Michael will be played by his nephew Jafar, who bears an uncanny resemblance to the man in the mirror.
In a court filing late Thursday, executors for Jackson's estate claim that Catherine has received more than $55 million from the estate since Michael's death. They're arguing she can cover her own legal costs for this appeal that she's pursuing. The estate declined to comment to NBC News about BG's court filing. We did reach out to representatives for BG and Catherine for comment on this week's developments, but have not heard back.
Thanks, Joe. Time now for some financial headlines. It's looking like Nike is trying a new sales strategy on for size.
CNBC's Bertha Coombs has that in other money news. Bertha, good morning.
Hey, good morning. They're not exactly saying Nike just do it a little differently, but the apparel maker, the sportswear maker, is shifting strategy, looking again to use outside retailers to help drive sales. The company reported disappointing quarterly earnings yesterday amid falling demand for shoes and apparel. Nike Direct, which is the segment that sells products online and through Nike stores directly to consumers, is still going to be important. But Nike CEO says as more people return to shopping in physical stores, they've got to lean in with their wholesale partners. Nike plans to invest more on seasonal marketing campaigns and how products are actually presented in those stores. Meantime, Microsoft unveiling its first AI computers. The Surface Pro 10 and the Surface Laptop 6 for business come with features Microsoft says that customers have been asking for, including improved battery life and anti-reflective displays. They also have a dedicated Copilot button. Microsoft says since launching that AI assistant a year ago, it has already saved workers as much as 10 hours a month, providing shortcuts and suggestions and summarizing emails and meetings. And Wendy's is delivering food by drone for the first time if you need your Frosty literally on the fly. DoorDash is partnering with the fast food chain and drone company Wing, which is owned by Google parent Alphabet. Delivery is only being tested in one town near Blacksburg, Virginia, which is near Virginia Tech. The drone will fly menu items at speeds up to 65 miles an hour within a 2.5-mile radius, and then apparently gently drop off the orders on the customer's front lawn. DoorDash plans to expand the service to other cities by the end of the year. And apparently if your order is too big, they might have like a squadron of drones. I'd really love to see that.
Wow. Are you serious? They would just send it with multiple. This is ridiculous.
That's what they say. Get cold if it's going 65 miles an hour in the sky.
Yeah, but it'll fly into you.
Yeah, also like
what a great way to have it like during March Madness.
Yeah, and the percentage of times it's gently dropped in the right place, I'm sure, is not high. All right, Bertha.
Buy a trampoline. All right.
Thank you very much. All right, let's stay on what things are going to cost you. Easter is just about a week away, but this year, the Easter bunny is not coming cheap. Candy companies are hiking up prices big time.
But get this, sweet tooth shoppers are actually expected to spend more than $22 billion over the holiday. For more, let's turn to NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung, who's back with us pulling double duty. Just couldn't stay away, right, Brian?
I just love hanging out with you guys so much. Good morning, guys. The effects of shrinkflation and increased prices are leaving a bitter taste for consumers. A recent report found not just sugar, but cocoa prices are reaching new levels when it comes to production costs.
This morning, with Easter baskets ready to be filled to the brim, a sweet holiday is going to cost you more this year.
Easter eggs that are already filled with candy were so expensive at the store, y'all.
It's all thanks to soaring sugar and cocoa prices, the perfect recipe for higher prices for those Easter treats. According to a recent Wells Fargo report, global sugar prices are surging at levels not seen in over a decade, while the cost of cocoa has more than doubled in the last year, with climate change pointed as the culprit, threatening cocoa tree health and production, and the cost of candy and other sweets rising 5.8% compared to just a year ago, according to the latest Consumer Price Index.
Happy Easter from Hershey's Kisses.
Its impact being felt at chocolate giant Hershey, which reported shrinking profits in their latest quarter review as a result of high prices. In a statement posted last month, the company writing, quote, "While historic cocoa prices are expected to limit earnings growth this year, we believe our strong marketing plans, innovation, and brand investments will drive top-line growth and meet consumers."
No bunny knows Easter better than Cadbury.
Cadbury, known for its iconic cream egg, also feeling the bite of raising costs, responding to upset consumers on X, formerly known as Twitter, for their steep prices on fan-favorite treats. Its parent company Mondelez is acknowledging price increases up to 15% within its chocolate category last year. Consumers are expected to spend over $22 billion this Easter, with more than $3 billion spent on candy. Owner of Mignon Chocolate, Joe Terpagosian, says the rising prices affect how he runs his business.
We have to be a little more careful, be a little more price sensitive, because everything has gone up significantly. But at some point, we have to pass that difference to our consumer.
One reprieve this Easter. At least eggs, the real ones, are cheaper. Egg prices are over $1 a dozen cheaper than a year ago, which could lead to a little relief for those Easter baskets this season.
You say the real ones?
Real eggs. Well, I had to kind of outline the difference. Just.
It's just really caught me off guard. The real ones.
The real one, yeah.
Okay, Brian, is there anything you could do to save on candy?
Yes. First of all, buying bulk will often save you a few bucks, but of course, don't overbuy. You don't want to just toss extra into the trash. Secondly, try to look for some coupons out there. There are tools like Honey, for example, that you can use to maybe find some last-minute deals if you're ordering online. And then lastly, when it comes to those plastic eggs, a little magic trick, I just brought this out on set. I know, right? These are the fake eggs, by the way. Sometimes you can buy them pre-packaged, but it's oftentimes cheaper just to buy the plastic eggs at the dollar store and then stuff it in yourself. There you go.
Okay,
and you can jelly beans in there, right?
Use them.
Yeah.
There you go.
Props on set.
I'm going to make an omelet with a Cadbury egg.
Or one of
egg
those.
inside an egg, like a matryoshka. Yeah. I like that.
Brian, thank you. Always fun. Coming up, if you're looking for the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment, who are you going to call?
Well, yeah, Ghostbusters, but you can also call
That was not the
us
call and response I
for
wanted.
your can't-miss list. After the break, the Ghouls are back this weekend with another Ghostbusters film. How our audience is reacting? Reviews are in next.
Who are you going to call?
Ghostbusters!
We fight for our queen!
I feel what I've begun.
Oh, look at that. The dragons are back. You are watching the trailer that HBO just dropped. Actually, they dropped 2 of them. This is for the 2nd season of the popular Game of Thrones spinoff, House of the Dragon. The first trailer shows the perspective of Rhaenyra and her black team. The second trailer is from the point of view of Alicent's green team. Grab your swords. Looks like HBO is already pushing viewers to pick sides. You got a little time to decide, though. All the action premieres on HBO and Max on June 16th. I'm a big fan. Are you a fan, Joe?
No, I'm not. Do you have to make a bracket for this, too? Like, which side's going to win? Is it like...
I'm a fan. You should watch. Thank you very much. No, I'm not. Just like that's what he says about Taylor Swift, too.
All right, here's some stuff I do like. It's time for your weekly can't miss list with all the movies, shows, and music you can't miss this weekend. Kay Ingram is a digital reporter at NBC News.
And
we did not plan this. We did not plan this.
Triplets. This is so weird. This is actually so weird. And you're like in the perfect combination of
the same mind.
I know.
And we like blend into the chairs. It's like, what is happening in this
We're just
corner?
going to talk about this for the next 5 minutes. All right, no. We're also going to talk about Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire.
Yes.
What are we hearing about this one?
Yeah, so for all you Ghostbuster fans, we've got something creeping in the neighborhood again. It is the sequel to the 2021 film that came out. Of course, folks know Ghostbusters, the OGs. You've got Bill Murray, who's back. We've got Ernie Hudson, who's also back, but you've also got some newcomers. Paul Rudd is in this one, Patton Oswalt, Kumail Nanjiani, and protagonist McKenna Grace, who her and her family have to do whatever they can to prevent the world from going through a second ice age. So shivers, ghosts, all the things. Yeah, and it's in theaters today.
Oh, there you go. Well, you can go see it. Okay, also, new documentary, Life of William Shatner. This sounds awesome. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so speaking of nostalgia, right, we talk about Ghostbusters, and then now we've got Star Trek.
Totally.
So if you're a fan of Star Trek, if you're a fan of William Shatner, then this is going to be the documentary for you. It's basically going through the life of Bill, as he wants you to call him. Specifically, it's called William Shatner. You can call me Bill. And so, surprisingly, well, maybe not surprisingly, he's been on this earth for 93 years.
Isn't that crazy? He looks like he's in his 70s.
Are you serious?
No, he's in his 90s.
90s.
Yeah.
I had to fact check that.
Wait, no way.
Yes, he is. That's the thing. He looks like he's 25 years younger than he is.
He does.
Oh my gosh, good for him. Okay, I hope they reveal
that should be what the documentary has.
9 decades of content, so you're going to get a lot in there if you're a fan.
All right, let's go way back for a biopic. Netflix. It was the first African-American woman elected to Congress, and she ran for president. Shirley Chisholm, tell us about this.
Chisholm. I'm really excited about this one personally. It's got Regina King, who is a queen in this.
So good.
I mean, she plays Shirley Chisholm, which is an icon. She is the first black woman to have, ran for Congress, got into Congress, and then also the first black woman to run for president of the United States. So I don't know, folks probably hear about her in history class, or maybe you didn't, but this is from Netflix, and it goes over that entire iconic campaign of when she wanted to run for office. Regina King hopes that it inspires. She does an incredible job. Terrence Howard is also in this. A lot of heavy hitters, but this is definitely going to be the one to watch, I think.
On Amazon Prime, you're going to see Jake Gyllenhaal. He's reprising this.
I will watch that.
Are you?
Okay, yeah. It's called Roadhouse. Tell us. And this is from this 1989 film. We'll bring it back.
Swayze.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, you got it right. Patrick Swayze. So this is the new version to that. It's a twist on that OG Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, like you mentioned, right? It gave us all the cheesy one-liners. It gave us the action. It gave us the abs. And so Jake Gyllenhaal is also in this one, this new version, with UFC fighter Conor McGregor. It's his first time in a feature film, which is really exciting.
That is very interesting.
Isn't it? But you know what? Watching the trailer, I was like into it. I was like, wait
so we
a minute.
think he's
good.
can act.
I think he can like pull it off.
Do you like UFC?
Yeah, no, I don't like UFC.
Yeah.
I like WWE. So
well, but everything today, watching them on screen, they're great.
All right, we got about a minute here. Let's talk about this Palm Royale on Apple TV Plus, which has so many big stars in it. My goodness.
Yeah. Okay. Well, speaking of the big stars, you've got Kristen Wiig, Ricky Martin, who I love, Allison Janney, Laura Dern, Carol Burnett, guest stars, including many, many more. And essentially, you've got this woman who's in Florida. Look, she's trying to get into the most exclusive. Most exclusive club in Florida, and will do anything, go to any ends to try to get into it. There it is. It's fabulous.
Kristen
it's gorgeous.
I
mean, hello. And so she does what she can, but she has this moral dilemma, like, how far is she willing to go to get into this club? You'll just have to watch.
It's one of those ones, too, that looks like fun to watch. Like, visually, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
We have to go, but the last thing is just Shakira's got new music. She's awesome, so
My
listen.
girl.
We love
there you go.
My queen. Love Shakira, yes. So this one is, and let me see my Spanish. Las mujeres ya no lloran.
Oh, very good.
Hello.
Job
Thank
well done.
you.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
All right.
Check
Listen,
it out.
watch all the things.
Kay, thank you so much.
It
Great
is
to have you with
the 12th album, and I can't wait to listen.
There
Sounds
you go.
good. That'll do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.